Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins. I thought today I'd show you how you could make your very own little book similar to this kind of book that was published by Frederick Warren and Company for Beatrix Potter. And we're going to be making our little book using elements from the Storybook Friends collection. And this is a wonderful collection of papers, embellishments, stamps, and dies that feature all these wonderful little animals, very similar to Peter Rabbit. So last week I showed you how I painted this little sketch of a bunny for a greeting card. And today what I have is a prototype in the making. So I'm going to be creating a little book, and this book is going to be just a tiny bit bigger than the standard size book that you see here. And I'm going to be using many of the items that you'll find in the Storybook Friends collection, and I will include that link after I'm done with the video in the description. So if you're interested in getting any of these things, you can do that. And by the way, if you do decide to get some of these supplies, you'll also discover that there's a wonderful promotion going on right now and a way to get a lot of free product as well. So more on that in a bit. But for now, I just want to show what we're doing today. So this is the beginning of the structure of the book, and on the cover I want to have a little watercolor depicting a scene of the bunnies in a garden, and that's going to be adhered to the cover, something like that. And then tomorrow for Paper Crafting Thursday, I'll show you more about the assembly of the book itself, and also I'll have more information about how you can get the PDF with all the measurements and the instructions and everything that you need to follow along. But today I just want to keep it simple, and so we're going to be focusing on the illustration for the cover. I'm going to put these aside for the moment. And what I thought I would do would be to include some of the characters that you see here. So I like this little bunny holding a cabbage, and this little girl bunny, and the stone wall, and the vegetable patch in the background. So those are the 4 stamps I'm going to be using. Oh, here comes Circe. She wants to say hello. And I think what I'll do is I'll leave room across the top so that you can put a title on there as well. And I'm not sure what that title is going to be just yet, but it might be something to hold one of these sentiments, or it might be somebody's name, or it might be happy birthday, or we don't know yet. But for now, here is our Fluid 100 watercolor paper. So this is 140-pound paper, which means that it's got a nice thickness to it, and it will also help to reinforce the strength of the cover. So that's great. We want it to last a nice long time and become a keepsake. So I'm just checking for the moment to see that we are live and that you can hear me, and it looks like it's working, so that's good. So I'm going to begin with some light stamping just to get my characters placed in the composition. And I've got my gray granite stamp pad here. Now this is the one that really needs to be re-inked, so it's going to stamp very faintly, and that's exactly what I want it to do. And these stamps, I'm getting my blocks out here, are for placement only. Okay, so you're not going to see the lines from the images once the background is in, and then later I can come back and I can restamp it with a better outline if I choose to do so. So remember, wanting to keep the top portion for a sentiment or a title, and then I'm going to pull out my stone wall. And I might need a little extra padding for this, so I'm going to go ahead and get my stamp pad out so that I get a nice impression. And I'm going to put this so a little bit higher than halfway up, going off into the distance. Okay, I'll zoom you in so you can see that a little bit better. And then I'm going to take my bunny with the cabbage and he's going to be front and center here because he and his little lady friend are going to be the main characters here. So there he is. And here she is. Okay, so that's what we have so far. And then maybe in the foreground I can put some of these vegetables. So let's see what they look like. I'm just going to let these run off the bottom of the image here. Maybe a little bit more. I can double stamp that off to the side. There we go. And just a little bit here. There we go. All right, so those are the main elements to my image. And now I'm going to use my spritzer. I'm going to moisten the top of the paper a little bit, and some of that ink may run, and I'm not worried about that. And then I'm going to use a mixture of blue and a little earth color to tone it down a bit. And just get that going in the sky. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull out some cloud shapes very quickly with a paper towel. simple as that. Now I am using watercolors. If you're using water-based ink, it's exactly the same thing, same process. Now I'm going to mix all of my primaries together, and so I'm using my red, yellow, and blue palette here. So I'm just mixing them all together to get a nice gray, and I'll show you that. So just taking whatever's left over on the palette, mixing it together till it becomes a beautiful neutral. So that'll work. Maybe warm it up just a little bit with some yellow. Okay, so there's my beautiful warm gray. I'm going to use that on my stone wall, and I'm just painting very lightly. Just get that started. And then I can see that there's a little bit of some kind of foliage at the base of the wall here, so I can go ahead and put some light green on there. And I'm going to go ahead and bring that right down, like so. Onto the lawn behind our critters. Same over here. And on this side. I'm just going to let that have a soft edge where the earth meets the sky here. Being careful to keep their bunny rabbit tails nice and white, so I'm going around those carefully. Alright, so there is the beginning of my, what I would call a preliminary painting or an underpainting, and then I want to add some richness to the foreground. So we've got this area where the vegetables are growing, so you can see patches of the earth that they're growing in. So I'm mixing up a nice warm tone now to place in the foreground. And again, I'm going around the vegetables and some of the little leaves. And let that run together a little bit. Okay, and I can take that same color, but this time making it a little bit darker, and I can go back into my stone wall and just put some of the detail back in there. Not too much. And then my bunnies are a kind of a golden brown. So I'm taking that same neutral mixture, okay, adding just a little bit of my yellow to warm it up, and that's going to give me a beautiful golden neutral. And then very lightly, I'm just going to, well actually before I do that I forgot to put the pink in their ears. I want to get a little pink in their ears first. So now I'm just taking some pink, get that started, just like so. All right, now take that warm tone and I'm doing it that way because I want this to run together a little bit and blend. So there he is. There she is. Going around his suspenders. Get his feet. Okay. I'm going to grab a little bit of a light green and just get some of these carrots. I think they're carrots. They could be radishes. Maybe they're radishes. Just putting the greens on there. Okay, and then get some color on here. And of course his beautiful cabbage, or maybe it's a lettuce that he's offering to his sweetheart. And his overalls. Right, so we're just about done with the first stage, and I think we'll give her a kind of a warm pink dress, leave her collar white, and her cuff. Okay. All right, so that is all the underpainting done. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to start adding some more detail and some shadow areas. So I'm going to go back to that stone wall in the background, and I'm just going to add some of the texture in between the stones. a little bit. You could turn, if you didn't want a stone wall, you could turn that whole thing into a tree line in the distance. Would be very pretty. In fact, if we wanted to put some trees in the background, we could do that right now. So all I have to do is just take a little green mixture. Let's just pop some trees in. Let's do it. And our kind of shrubbery back here. And there may be some tufts of grass that are just poking up around. Right, so just a little added texture there. And then coming down into our vegetable patch, I'm going to make a darker brown. And again, just mixing all of my 3 primaries together to get a nice brown. Get this out of the way so you can see a little bit better. So here's some red. Bringing in some yellow. A little blue. And that's going to give me a beautiful rich brown. And I can adjust that to any tone that I'd like by simply warming it up or cooling it down, however I want. So that looks pretty good. And so I can just start to add a little bit of texture to these clumps of earth. There we go. Now, it's becoming, my composition is becoming much more established now. I'm going to go ahead and start to add my darker tones. So there's a shadow on the lawn cast by the stone wall. get this green a little bit darker in the foreground here. There we go. All right. So I think it's time for the final details on our characters. It's a little too dark. Soften that a little bit. There we go. Okay, there's our little girl with her puff sleeves. Let's get our boy bunny's overalls. I don't want these too bright. He's been working in the garden, so he's probably got some mud. Now, if you'd like to be kept up to date as to the online classes and workshops I'm going to be offering, you want to make sure that you are subscribed to Notes from Dandelion Cottage. And if you're watching on Facebook, there is a button up in the banner that says sign up, so please go ahead and sign up so I can send you all the information. And if you're watching on YouTube, check the links in the description. And also come and join the private group, which is watercolor and Stampin' Up! Paper crafting projects. I'm going to be sending out a special invitation to all my students and followers for a special live Zoom. And if you'd like to join us, you're going to want to make sure that you are in that group. So just all you need to do is comment below so I can recognize your name, and then ask to be invited into the the Watercolor and Stampin' Up! Paper crafting projects group, and I'll let you in, and there'll be a lot more information in there. And of course, once you're in there, you'll be able to see everybody's beautiful projects and get some tips, see how the decluttering of the craft room and art studio is coming along, and all sorts of things. So please join us. We'd love to see you in there. I'm going back to that warm brown mixture. I'm just going to blend that . Like so. Now this little book that I'm working on is going to be perfect to hold your watercolor sketches, your colored stamped images. You can put little pockets in it to hold notes and surprises, all sorts of things. So you're going to want to see how that develops, and to do that, please join me tomorrow right here on Paper Crafting Thursday live, and we'll be beginning to assemble the book, and you'll be able to get your PDF instructions with all the measurements and step-by-step photos of how it all comes together. All right, we're very close now to being done. I'm just adding some dark accents. And I may have to let this dry a little bit before I put in the finest details like the eyes and the nose, the whiskers, etc. But I think you can get a pretty good idea of how this is going to look. And I'll hold it up to the book cover in just a second so that you can see what it will look like in place. Yeah, it's a little too wet now for me to go any further, so I'm just going to leave it at that. You'll be able to see the finished details in the thumbnail. And I'll also add a lot more texture to my vegetable patch here below as well. Now, one thing I'd like to do is, once this is completely dry and I have all my details added, I'm going to go around the edges and I'm going to sponge the edges of the paper so I don't have that white showing through. So I'll probably use something like the, oh, I forgot his, hold on, can't forget his lettuce gift. Let's get a little more color on there. There we go. Okay. All right, now once this dries, it's going to dry a little bit lighter than what it looks now. So there's a very good chance, in fact it's likely, that I will be going back in again with some of these darks just to make sure that it reads properly. And let me move some of these things out of the way here. Excuse me while I do a little bit of housekeeping. Okay, so let's get the cover back. So my thought was that for the cover, I'm going to use the crumb cake color as a base. And then for a matte, I'm going to use the pecan pie. And then my image will look something like that. Alright, so there they are. There's enough room in the sky to put a title or a banner, whatever you may like. And then there will also be somewhere here, hang on. I've lost my ribbon closure. I don't know how it's possible that I can be sitting in the same place without getting up and things just absolutely disappear. But it happens. So here's my closure, and I think it'll go under the mat. So you get that beautiful ribbon peeking through. I know this is a little hard to see right now, but once it all gets assembled and stitched down, it'll look very cute. So you have to sort of squint and use your mind's eye to envision what this will ultimately look like. So there it is. That is the beginning of the cover of the little book. I'm going to show you how you can make your own. And then on the inside, and this is just a little sneak preview of tomorrow, I have my end papers, we'll call them. And they're going to look something like this. Now I'm still debating about whether to keep the flaps. I think the flaps are going to go, but it might be nice to have a tuck. So I'm just gonna mull that around for a while to decide whether or not that's something that I want to include. But the inside of the book will look something like this, and of course you'll have all your pages, and then the outside. Okay, so I hope that looks interesting to you. I just wanted to share an old book. So here is the one that we're all familiar with. But I have a couple of other little books here that are very old. And I just wanted to show them to you because I'm loosely following the anatomy of this kind of a book. So basically you've got your cover with your little image on the cover. This one has a dust jacket, okay? And then on the inside you have your end papers. You've got a title page that usually has some nice little sketch or drawing. Or here's the title page. This one has a nameplate page where you can put your name. Okay, a little illustration opposite, and then you have your pages with your images and your text. Okay, so that's very classic kind of a book design. Now here's another little book. This one is by Tasha Tudor, another favorite of mine, another wonderful watercolor painter. Now here the book plate is on the inside front cover. Beautiful little vignette of some flowers and a couple of goldfinches. And then, so this is 1940. It's hard to believe that this book is that old already. And so what would that be? It would be 85 years old. And then here is a dedication page and then the story. And what I particularly like about this book is I like the decorative capital letters on the beginning of the text of each page. And then finally, the last book that I want to show you to hopefully inspire you to make your own is this book that is called The Spring Cleaning, which is right around the corner. And this is illustrated by Frances Hodgson Burnett, a wonderful British watercolor illustrator. And this book, let's see if this one has a date in it. 1916, okay? And here is the beautiful color plate opposite the title page. So here's a beautiful example of having a color illustration. It even has a little, it says, my green workers spread out in their line face to face with them. So oh, it looks like there's going to be a war here. Uh-oh. But anyway, here's a beautiful little line art decoration. And again, you have the, in this case, it looks like a introduction or a dedication, and then it gets into the story. And this one is very much like Beatrix Potter's book, except the illustrations here are on the left and the text is on the right. And it looks like they may switch that up a little bit. Yeah, so it goes back and forth in this book. So either way, you can lay out your pages and decide how you want them to be. Now, I'm going to, in the book that I'm showing you how to make, I'm going to keep it very simple, and I'm going to show you how you can very easily add your pages as you go along, as time allows. So I hope that gave you a little inspiration. I hope that you get out your brushes and start painting some little scenes using these characters. It's a little bit drier now. I can probably get a little more detail in here. So I'm just going to take a dark color, and I have to get my head down to see what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to indicate where the eyes are. Okay, that always helps bring the illustration to life. So there they are. I'm going to finish this up. It'll probably take about 10 or 15 minutes, certainly no more than that, and then I will post the thumbnail. So don't forget to subscribe to Notes from Dandelion Cottage. You can visit dandelioncottagedesign.com and get more information there. And join us in the group, Watercolor and Stampin' Up! Paper Crafting Projects, because I'm going to be making some exclusive announcements to my friends in there, the people that follow me, and I'm going to reward them with a special little presentation. So if you'd like to join us, please do. I hope to see you there. Stay well, stay happy, stay creative, and I will see you next time.